What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Half-Ass Podcast. It is your boy. We are back here to review a movie that actually came out fairly recently, within the past 3 years. But before we get to that, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, over here to my right, we got the editor, the author, the illustrator, the end-all, be-all of Walter Paisley Cafe and Spadal. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mark Platt.
Skavoovie, everyone. I hope you're doing well tonight or whenever you watch this video. Thanks for having me, Corn.
Oh, no problem, man. Look, you and I both sat down, watched Isle of Dogs for the first time. Oh, man. I just want to say my first thought coming out of this movie was, what a brilliant movie. But you guys won't have to hear it just from me tonight, folks, because Smith's going to join us at some point tonight as well tonight. So it's going to be the three of us, the trio. Mark, you want to please give the people a synopsis pretty much of what Isle of Dogs from 2018 is about.
All right. Our story takes place in Megasaki. It's a fictional city in Japan. Mayor Kobayashi declares that all the dogs in town who happen to be sick with some kind of a canine flu be banished to a nearby island where they dump their trash, dubbed Trash Island. So to show his dedication to this declaration, he offers up the dog in his house, which happens to be the bodyguard dog of his ward and distant nephew, Atari. So after some time, we get to see a group of dogs on Trash Island that have been there a while. There are 5 dogs: Chief, played by Bryan Cranston, King, Duke, Rex, and Boss. And when they're having a discussion or something like that, they see a plane crash. They go toward the crash, and they find out that it's Atari, the mayor's ward. However, the interesting thing about this movie is the dynamics in the language as it goes on. All the dogs are speaking English in the movie. There's a notice at the beginning of the movie that says that the language that the humans will speak will be translated in some way or another, but they'll be speaking in Japanese, and or the humans rather, and the dogs speak English. So when the dogs go up and find Atari, they don't understand him, even though Atari seems to kind of get what they're saying. But either way, he pretty much has a picture and shows his dog, Spots, the dog that was donated by Mayor Kobayashi, or not donated, but banished, really. Trying to show his good whatever intentions. So they help him find the dog. And it gets really interesting from there. Quite a story, quite an interesting adventure, couple of arcs. But I think that's pretty much where we could sum everything up and head on to our review.
Yeah, that part at the beginning of the movie, like where I was kind of sold into it, was when you did see the dogs at the beginning, and then you saw the way they told about the jokes and everything. Not the jokes, but they pulled out a couple of jokes in the beginning to kind of people, a little bit of, not like super obvious jokes, but very subtle, kind of jokes, little playful jokes in like the first 10 minutes. And I started to feel a little bit more comfortable with the movie. and just all the weird. I put the word is it, maybe innuendo. I think is what I would call some of the stuff that they do throughout the movie, but I could be wrong. Maybe that's the wrong word for it. But these really cool like subtle like aneurysms that dogs do throughout the movie that I really enjoyed. Like they kind of played to like the nature of what a dog is, but at the same time still giving you that message. In the end, hell, probably I'd say probably a couple, if not a few messages throughout this movie, which is really good. So, at the very beginning, where I think my first laugh of this movie, and again, this movie wasn't like a comedy or anything, but it's one of those movies where it's really weird of what kind of genre you want to really put it in. I would say a masterpiece, if anything. But
Absolutely.
the first joke was, I think the dog that was like narrating at the beginning, he's like, where what do you say? Oh yeah, the dog where he beheaded the head of the head, and I was like, I had to run that back, and I was like, wait a minute, what did he just say? And then he said it again. I was like, holy shit, that was actually pretty funny.
I think it was beheaded the head of the head of the Kobayashi dynasty.
Yeah. Dude, I'm telling you, dude, I really enjoyed this movie. I mean, you get when we got introduced to the boy pilot, right? Who actually turned out he was the nephew of Mayor Kobayashi, right?
Right, but like a great nephew, or Kobayashi is his great uncle.
Yeah,
because he took him in as a ward. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
I just say he took him in as a ward because he was in a train crash with his parents, and his parents didn't survive.
Yeah, and look, guys, this movie had so many cool things. I mean, I guess I'd start out with the animation of it. The animation was to me immaculate. The way that they would have these dogs stand there and like the wind blowing and all this. And I know I'm getting maybe a little too detailed with it. I'm sorry, but to me, like that's my first, that's my first look at it. Was like, wow, they really did make these dogs look pretty cool, and they made the humans look pretty cool. It kind of reminded me of like, especially once the girl got introduced. What was that movie that came out in like maybe the 90s? I mean, 90s at the latest. God damn it. It was Claymation. But I know it wasn't Disney, I don't think. James and the Giant Peach, that movie. That's what it kind of reminded me, the Claymation kind of reminded me of. It's like James and the Giant Peach-esque, kind of. Damn. That movie came out a while ago. But, yeah, from like the illustration, like basically from like the visual side of it, especially with like the humans and the way they had them. I thought it was very interesting how they had her as a transfer student, and I didn't figure out she was a transfer student until the end, where they said they were going to report her back to Ohio. And I mean, story structure. Let's go back to story structure. This movie had it. And it's weird how we notice that a lot in indie movies, but we don't. But like a lot of the mainstream movies that come out in like big theaters and big blockbuster movies don't really have that much creativity and that much great storyline. That goes back to our reboot culture discussion that we had about a week or so ago. But I gotta say, man, the first act of this movie had me sold, because you had the dogs introduced, you had Trash Island introduced first in the very beginning, and then you get the dogs on there. You had I might get these names mixed up, but you had Spot, Duke, who's the other guy, Boss or something like that.
Boss was one. That was
Boss. Okay, yeah.
Bill Murray.
Yep. And then you had Nutmeg, I believe. What's the name?
By Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlett Johansson, yes. Dude, you could tell that was Scarlett Johansson, just the way she talked. Because Scarlett Johansson doesn't have like that high pitch, she always has like that low pitch, like very secretive talking to, like very seductive voice, So you could tell like right off the jump. Okay, that's Scarlett Johansson. I love movies. I know I'm all over the place, but I love movies like this. When when it's animated and when they have like these voiceover characters, because it's really cool to see them go out of their element. Like it's really cool to see like your Bill Murrays and your although Bill Murray's done some voiceover work throughout the years as well, but to see your Scarlett Johanssons, your Bryan Cranstons, and then you notice, like, you look at the cast, you're like, wow, I couldn't even tell that they were so and so, or that so and so was this person. I love it because the voice of the actors kind of adapted. It was kind of synonymous with the characters that they were given, and that's one thing I loved about Bryan Cranston's character, the main character, Spot. We find out Spot's on this journey.
That's Chief.
Chief, not Spot.
Spots is the dog that Atari is looking for.
Yeah, that was his long lost brother, right? So when he's on this journey, right? He's on this journey with Atari, and they're having this really good bond. One of the turning points for me, and it was a good turning point, good turning point for me, was when he got his first bath. Like, who'd ever thought that in a movie, in an animated movie too, that when a dog gets their first bath, you would be so emotionally invested, like it would mean so much. This movie did that. This movie had me emotionally invested throughout the entire thing. I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, all right. But then it's just like the message behind the whole, like, okay, how they get the dog to do this. He's like, I'm not going to go fetch it. And then it's after like the third or fourth time, it's like, look, I'm going to go fetch it, but just know it's not because of you, blah, blah, whatever.
Yeah, because I feel sorry for you.
Yeah. I love that part. What was your favorite part of this movie?
Well, one of the things that I really liked in the movie was the way the group of dogs were organized. What they really remind me of is an anarchist affinity group. And what that is a group that organizes for some purpose, but they're a leaderless group and they're purely democratic. So those dogs, while didn't have an official leader, but even though sometimes somebody took a position that may have looked like a lead, it still came down to voting. And Chief at one point says, that he even said, we do not have leaders, so we should vote on it. And that was right before the moment when they were on the trash gondola thing that went into the incinerator room.
Yeah, so, I thought they died for a minute.
I did too. I thought, what the hell? And I thought too that it was going to just be Atari and Chief for the rest of the movie. But it was so casual. Like, they didn't even give us a hint. That is kind of one of the differences that you might see from this movie and more mainstream movies, is a lot of stuff. There's so many tropes and clues that mainstream movies will give you before something happens. And I think that a director not like Wes Anderson probably would have given us a better hint. Those dogs just went into that incinerator and left us guessing.
Yeah, it did. And yes, and it did. It did. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls at home, TV land, film land, ladies and gentlemen, we got Smith in the building. Everybody say what's up, Smith.
What's up?
Smith. So we just captured our somewhat, or like a little bit of our reviews. We haven't gotten the big parts yet. But what was your first thought after watching Isle of Dogs?
It's definitely a strange film. It's not run of the mill, It's got a really weird feeling to it. Even the storyline's kind of Avant-garde, is that the wrong word? Maybe.
You guys are these
no,
big
it would be the right if it, a little experimental, not conventional. Somebody got a cricket in their room.
That's me. Yeah. I don't know if I can make them be quiet. So.
Okay, I figured it wasn't me. It's we've had a lot. The winter, the crickets. I don't know if they die or they hibernate or what, but we don't hear them until the weather gets warm for a while.
Well,
Yeah,
I got a box of them over there, so for the lizard.
Oh, that's why you do. Okay, if they're not wild crickets, they're feeder crickets.
But yeah, look, man. Smith, our favorite parts of the movie as well. What was your favorite part of Isle of Dogs and why?
Dang, I just got here and you put me on the spot. Right, probably all the scenes going through the wasteland leading up until the incinerator part, which you talked about before they parted ways. It was just very aesthetic,
Yeah.
To be more specific, probably when they meet Oracle and what was the other dog's name? The one who watches TV.
Yeah, that was. Oh man, what was his name?
Oh, that was the pug.
The pug was Oracle.
Oh shit! Yeah.
The other dog, I think, was a Saint Bernard. He had a barrel of what he called turpentine brandy or bourbon or something like that. Yeah. So, but I'm having a hard time remembering him. But yeah, that was the Oracle was hilarious. I mean, there's an example of the kind of humor that's in this film. A lot of it is really deadpan delivery, and it's a thinking humor. It's just you got to kind of think, and just the Oracle. She says it's going to rain tomorrow. Mystically. And they were like, "Oh, can you predict the future?" And then the Saint Bernard says, "She understands the television." And then I mean, just to me, that was hilarious. And
so, we all agree that this is a strange movie, but it's not too strange to where we can't recommend it to someone. You know what I mean? It's one of those movies where it's like, yeah, it's odd, but it's not one where it's not like Cannibal Holocaust where we're like, I'm probably not going to reference this to anybody. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can reference to pretty much everybody. Like this is one of those movies. It wasn't super like duper like boring or anything like that. It wasn't super duper like fun filled, but it is very emotionally fun filled. If that makes any sense. Like when we talked about the whole incinerator part, right? Where they go through this incinerator and we're thinking their ass is grass. They're done. And all of a sudden, what was it? Maybe about 10 minutes later, maybe 15 minutes later, we see them pop up again. And it's like, oh shit, they had us. And then we get over to the part where like the big what do you call it? Was it like a speech that they did where that big scene at the end? It's not like a speech or
the debate kind of.
A debate, okay. Yeah. So the debate, that scene in itself was that was crazy. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that part. We saw where the dog I get the dog names mixed up all the time. But we saw where Chief, right? Chief got on stage with Atari. Then what's the girl's name again?
Tracy Walker.
Tracy. Okay, yeah, that's right. Tracy. And then they all stood up. They did all this shit. They said everything they needed to say, and basically say like, hey, the serum works. And then they showed everyone. The only part that I got kind of confused at was, okay, so right before they gave Chief the serum, right? Didn't they say they were deporting her back? So how come she was still there?
I believe Mayor Kobayashi, I thought he announced that during that presentation, or or was it on TV before? I don't remember.
It was during that.
Okay, yeah. So she just found that out.
Yeah, crazy, man. That's crazy because I thought about that when I watched it. I was like, didn't he just say that she's done? Like she's got to go back to Ohio? But nonetheless, she stayed there, and they gave Chief the serum. That they gave Chief showed the aftermath of everything else that went on. And also they tried to fight for, I guess that was like world dominance with the whole red button.
Yeah.
Oh no,
whatever that was.
That was to kill all the dogs.
Okay. Like that was Trash Island. Like it would have detonated on Trash Island, I'm guessing.
They were supposed to release some kind of a gas because maybe you know, Smith, because they showed guys in like hazmat suits with some kind of guns, and the guns.
Yes.
It was that same poisonous wasabi that killed the doctor. They had on that. And then the reason it didn't work, it's like a really small scene, but it's that hacker kid from the school using a toilet as a computer, and he fucks all their shit up.
Oh,
yeah, because remember he turns around and looks at the camera, and it says
it's a really short scene though.
Yeah.
So like if you don't pay attention, you'll miss it.
And I watched it twice. I watched it last night and today, and I still came out of it on my second viewing. Go, now wait a minute, what? Who? How did they?
Yeah, there are some parts of it where you kind of had to rewind back, man.
Yeah, did you guys notice when the mayor was in the hot tub and he gets a phone call or something? He gets out and his back is like an entire Yakuza style tattoo with a cat on it.
Yeah, I wondered about that too. I was just like, that looks like a Yakuza tattoo. But he did have some Yakuza goons working for him. What were they called?
That's true.
Like the hard punch or fist gang or something like that.
Like the most generic thing you can think of. So I want to ask you guys, so throughout the movie, with this whole emotional, I wouldn't even say roller coaster, because I kind of felt these emotional pulls throughout the movie. Is in terms of animated movies, did you guys have more an emotional feel to this movie, at least throughout?
I mean, compared to like a live action thing.
Or no, I just mean compared to other animated movies. Like in terms of like other animated movies, like did you guys have more of like emotion throughout this movie, or is it just like, like you kind of feel a little bit, but not really?
I mean, I'm a pretty emotionally distant person. But I would say, yeah, it definitely pulls on the heartstrings a little bit, more so than like Bug's Life, for example.
I think the movie had a lot of heart without being too. What's that?
Yo, Corn, I think you're lagging.
Oh, is that Corn? Really? I thought it was me.
I can see you fine. I think it's just Corn.
Oh no!
Oh shit!
You're good now.
You guys hear me?
Yeah,
you're fine. All I was saying was that I thought the movie had a lot of heart without being saccharine. It just, it conveyed the emotions well with the way that we gained sympathy for the characters in it. And there was just kind of it was just a little kind of, sly or, about it. So, yeah, that's definitely what I liked about the film, that it didn't overdo the sweetness of it. I mean, it was certainly sweet and heartful in a lot of ways, but it wasn't, that sort of, oh, shucks sort of way.
Well said. Oh, shucks.
Shout out to Terry Wirtz, says hello. What's up, Terry Wirtz?
Terry.
Shout out.
Terry's my neighbor.
Okay. Shout out to Terry. Uh, in terms of being an independent film and having a big name, I wouldn't say a huge name cast, and it wasn't like they you put out all the guns, but it was a pretty fairly big name cast for voice actor roles. I just want to say kudos to these guys. Again, we keep coming across these movies. Well, I guess I keep coming across this movie because you guys have already seen some of these movies that we suggest that we watch. But like, I keep coming across movies, and I'm like, how the fuck did I not see this? Like, how did I not know this came out when it came out? Let alone got put on Disney Plus and still had no idea what it was. Look, I enjoy experiences like this. I enjoy sitting back and watching a good movie and saying, "Damn, this is a really good movie," and I kind of feel bad, kind of hate my past tense self for not seeking out to find this movie sooner, before when it came out or whatever. What did this come out in actual theaters? Do any of you guys know?
It had a very limited release in the U.S. It was originally released in the U.K. because it was produced there and created there. So yeah. But it had a wider release there, but it was a very small release in the U.S. So the only reason why I had heard of it was that when I was a greeter at Walmart, it was a DVD at the Red Box.
Oh wow! Word. Did you get it from the Red Box? Or
no, it was the first time I watched it for this viewing. I wanted to see it because after I saw it at the Red Box, I saw it was stop motion animation. I had started hearing things about it, how it was really cool and really interesting. So I was really, and I have Disney Plus, but I didn't know it was put on Disney Plus, but it probably was somewhat recently because it's a Fox property. So, and Disney acquired Fox just this past year, right?
Oh, 2019, yeah. Yeah, guys. So if there's one thing you guys could change about this movie, or if there's one con you guys have about this movie, what would it be? If you guys could change anything, Smith, I'll start with you.
I don't know if there's anything I would change at all. I mean, it is what it is. I'm not saying it's a masterpiece work or anything, but it's very well done. Let's see. I would say the only thing I would change is I would add more dialogue with the dogs who aren't chief, that initial pack, because that was one of the better parts of the movie, just hearing them fucking riff with each other.
Yeah,
that's probably the most criticism I can give to it, like without going, being picky.
Mark, what about you?
Well, there was one tiny thing that rubbed me the wrong way. That's probably the best way I can put it, because I think it was before Smith came on. Yeah, it was. You and I were talking about where I told you that the group of dogs was structured like an anarchist affinity group where they didn't have a leader, but everything was purely democratic and went by votes. And so I'm philosophically an anarchist and, very anti-authoritarian. So, and it could be argued differently, but I kind of got the impression that, by the end, the dogs go back and they're happy with their masters. They're being called masters. Like, I don't even like to say that, like I had a cat, unfortunately he died. I wasn't his master. I was his caretaker, and, but yeah, so I have a real beef with authority. I've said it on this show before. So that was the only thing that rubbed me the wrong way, but that doesn't mean I'm going to throw the movie down the shitter completely just for that aspect. It's kind of something to expect, but in a way too, it was kind of sweet.
I have my gripe with only one thing, and maybe maybe it's not a bad thing. They did it this way, but there was little to no context. I wouldn't say little to no context, but there was very limited development with the people in the story. And I know I might catch a lot of flack for that because it's a movie about dogs. But once you involve people and you introduce people into the story, I feel like you kind of have to give us just a little bit more. Now, again, they gave us some good stuff and good enough background so that we could kind of, go with our own imagination and stuff like that. But at the same, I feel like just maybe a little bit more kind of like development with the human characters. Like maybe not the girl. Obviously Atari, he was there throughout the whole movie, but maybe the mayor, maybe a little bit more from like the news people, the newscast people that were talking throughout the movie, and showing you what was going on throughout the movie, or at least towards the end. But besides that, man, this movie knocked out the park. Another banger, another fucking banger that we just watched, man. Really is, man. I enjoyed this movie from beginning to end. There was no it wasn't like watching Iron Sky, where I was like, yes, and then oh, and then yeah, and then oh. It was like throughout the whole thing, I was like, all right, cool. Like this is a really good movie. And again, it's one that you have to go back. There's certain scenes and certain very small parts you have to go back and hit rewind and be like, okay, so he said that, or oh, okay, this happened, or whatever. Because even though this movie's 2 hours long, I think I spent about 3.5 hours on it, just trying to rewind back and make sure I catch this. Like again, when Smith pointed out where the hacker at the end hacked the system, or hacked the detonator or whatever it was, the button, and everybody's like everybody in the hazmat suits, the poison wasabi got into their suit and everything. And then it's this very small blip that if you're not looking at the screen at that exact time, which we're all guilty of not doing, we're all guilty of not doing that just because of the day and age we live in. There's a million things to be doing, but if you're not paying attention to that screen at that exact time, you wouldn't even see the hacker. It's small stuff like that too. But I feel like I wouldn't even change that, because I feel like that's what kind of adds to your film. It's those small, subtle, here you go. This is the last piece. This is the missing. You know what I mean? I like stuff like that. I really enjoyed this movie a lot. So before we get to our grades, I want to know, is there anything else you guys want to talk about in terms of this movie? Anything else you guys want to point out? Any plot holes or anything? Any cool shit?
Oh, I wanted to say a couple more things.
Of course.
One was, I think, the most beautiful scene in the movie, and there were a lot. That's a high bar, but it actually had to be the scene where the sushi chef makes the meal for Professor Watanabe. So, where he grabs the fish and starts chopping it up. It has it on some kind of brace. Pulls out the bones, and then pulls the. I think there was, I don't know which was first, but there was a tentacle that was still moving, and a live crab. So yeah, I mean, it was kind of a little grisly, but it was just masterfully done. It was just an amazing sight. And well, I love sushi, and the few sushi bars I've been to, it's just amazing to watch those people make those things. So yeah. That was just really beautiful. But yeah, also what I really thought is that I liked was they kind of threw a love interest thing in there, but it wasn't drawn out. It was kind of punched in there, almost oddly. But I'm glad they didn't go through.
Wait, are you talking about the Tracy and Atari thing?
Yeah, where she had her billboards with the tax and the yard.
And she's like, I think I have a crush on you.
yeah, and then the only reason why they got together was because Atari referred to her as the very attractive exchange student in his speech at the end. So we didn't have the long, drawn out, will they, won't they kind of shit. It's like, I'm not saying there shouldn't be love scenes or not love interests or stories in movies, but I'm a pretty aromantic person. I just, it's just something that's just not for me. So I can be kind of annoyed by it if it's really laid on thick.
I liked it because it was cheesy. I think I liked it literally only because it if it was like a forced thing, I'd be like, yeah, nah. But the fact that it was like super cheesy, you got in the middle of the movie, so it's like maybe I have a crush. Like just the fact that everything in this movie was cheesy, but again, in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It wasn't like cheesy where it's like, okay, why are they trying to do this? Or like, oh, we've seen this a million times. Like it was legit like creatively cheesy. Smith, you have anything else to say about Isle of Dogs?
Yeah, and it kind of touches on the topic of the background characters development that you mentioned earlier. I feel like I definitely, now that you mentioned, I definitely would have liked to see more of the mayor's staff. Like, what was up with that super tall bald dude?
Oh yeah, the really old looking.
Yeah. They didn't explain that, or unless I missed it. And also, is he supposed to be like a Hideki Tojo reference, like World War II fascism kind of thing?
I
I
have
don't
no
know,
idea.
but
His name was Major Domo. So, and they introduced him really quickly, like with one sentence. He had some sort of position under Mayor Kobayashi.
Under him?
Yeah, because
Oh wow.
he worked for the mayor.
Yeah, because he did. He had a striking presence in this movie. But yeah, again, like I kind of felt like Smith, where I think I missed that sentence where they explained him because I felt like Smith too. I was like, who is this guy? Like you can kind of like assume what he's supposed to be, but at the same time, it's like, well, what they didn't really like. They haven't really, and what they usually do with characters is you'll introduce them and then you'll calmly and subtly continue to not reintroduce them, but kind of reiterate who they are throughout the movie every time they appear. Like, oh, like kind of what they do with the mayor. It's like mayor so and so, mayor so and so. But then with this guy, it's just like there's like nothing, no mention. No, we get that one sentence at the beginning of the movie, and then that's it. Yeah, because I didn't catch that either. That's part of the reason why I said the whole development thing. Because I'm like, look, we don't even know who the fuck this guy even is, but he looks important, you know. Yeah. But all right, guys, it's grading time now. So, drum roll. Smith, I'll start with you.
all right. This is actually pretty hard for me because I don't even want to say that this is A worthy. I mean, it's a really well done film, but I just, if you compare it to other things, it just doesn't really hold up as well. Because after all, this is I would consider this a child's movie anyways.
Well, it's PG-13.
Huh? PG-13? Well, to me, I don't know. I mean, like, wouldn't you put this on for your children if you had any? I don't think any of us here do, but
no, I don't.
I'm gonna give it a solid A minus. Solid A minus, and the reason is there's just probably another thing I should have mentioned with my my gripes and complaints about it. That whole kidney scene was probably like just a little too much. Like, do we really need that? It's just cheesy. It's too cheesy. Everything before that was fucking perfect.
I agree. Mark, what's your grade on Isle of Dogs?
All right. Well, it's gonna happen again. One of these shows, I'm gonna give a lower grade than Smith, but I'm not gonna do that this show. I will admit, though, the thing that I mentioned that bothered me about the theme. I mean, I think a theme is a very important part of a film, even though it can be subjective. But I mean, if the theme is what the film is trying to tell you, and I came away from it thinking that it was just another way to sort of assert how good authority might be, or something like that, or just that mentality. I would just give it an A, because otherwise, I thought it was a beautiful film. I'm sure this is the kind of thing that's referred to often by reviewers. The attention to detail was amazing. The humor was great. Yeah, and I do think that kids could watch this. When I was a kid, I watched this one movie that was called Fantastic Planet from the late 60s. It was animated, but it was certainly not a kid's film. Um, it wasn't, didn't have a lot of movement and action and all kinds of things to catch the attention of the short attention span that children have. But based solely on the fact that it was animated, I would watch it. And I've seen kids do that too, where they're just enthralled. In fact, I don't think kids often laugh at television and movies unless there's like a poop joke or something like that, or something gross. You know, they're not tuned into word humor and things like that. So yeah, but excellent film.
You want to know why? You guys want to know why I'm not married? I just laughed because you said the word poop. That's to say it all right there. And you guys remember this show called Happy Tree Friends?
Yeah,
on Netflix.
I was talking about that earlier today, actually.
So, I was dating this chick, long-term girlfriend, back in 2014, and I came home one weekend and hanging out with her and her nephews. Turn on Netflix. And again, we're like somewhat like babysitting, whatever. So I'm like, all right, well, let me pick something good, for the kids or whatever, and then turn on. So go to Netflix. I see Happy Tree Friends sitting there. And I'm like, well, this seems innocent and cool. So let me just turn this on. It's like you got like an 8-year-old, 5-year-old, and like a 4-year-old, right? Bro. I got 30 seconds to that thing, dude. These motherfuckers started screaming. Like, all right, so Happy Tree Friends, for the audience, Happy Tree Friends is like this. It's this animated show, but it's like bunnies, right? And they're like killing each other. It's like evil fucking bunnies. And it's like all these creative ways to like kill each other or commit suicide in like a 5 or 10 minute episode. I don't know if it's still on Netflix, but it was on Netflix for the longest time, for like years.
I want to see it
now. Yeah. But so to go back to your whole thing, Mark, and I want to ask you and Smith, was there more than one theme to this movie? Because I feel like it's there. Like I feel like there was like more than one thing to take away from this movie. But I kind of was unclear on the actual theme. Once you kind of explained what we could get from the end of this movie, kind of gave me more of an understanding, a little bit more of an understanding. But is there a possibility for there to be more than one theme to this movie? Mark, I'll start with you.
Well, yeah, I don't know, because what made me downgrade from the A plus was not the only theme about authority. It seemed like they played with it. They had a dog what was interesting is a lot of people, when they think of anarchy or anarchism, they think that it means everybody just going ape shit, or it's something like, Mad Max or some bullshit like that.
Like Walking Dead.
When the dogs were metaphorically and literally cut from the leash, when they were to their own, when they were on their own, they organized into this leaderless democracy. So it's kind of a push and pull, because the Kobayashi is very authoritarian. He has a change of heart. And then you have Major Domo, thing like that. So I would say that I saw authority as a theme, but was kind of a wave. It was kind of up and down. It did leave things for you to think about.
Okay. Yeah, because because once I finished this movie, I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, there's got to be. I think that was like not open ended, but it just kind of left me feeling like, okay, maybe I didn't really catch every single thing I was supposed to by the end of the movie. And the reason why I didn't put that in my things that I would change is because I mean, I feel like it's kind of poetic the way they did it. It wasn't necessarily like this whole like, hey, here it is kind of thing. It's more of like again, tonight's word's going to be subtle for this movie. It was very poetically subtle. And that is why I'm going to give this movie an A+. Yes,
Nice.
give this movie an A+. Because, again, my only complaint about this movie is that it just didn't have that development with the actual human characters. And that only but to give it an A+. I would 100% recommend this to most people to say, hey, you know, like if I know you're into like animated movies and into, you know, story driven, you know, stuff like that, and broad characters like dogs speaking in English and all this other stuff, like, yeah, I would definitely recommend this movie to them. So yes, this movie gets an A+ from me. Is there anything else you guys want to say about Isle of Dogs before we get out of here? Start our episode.
Well, you made me think of one more thing because you mentioned poetic, and my mind went to the haikus. There was that was hilarious. The boy samurai from the legend about the Kobayashi dynasty at the beginning. I think it was something about like, I turned my back on my own species, you know, humanity. Then I think it was frost on window pane. And then, yeah. You know, and then I think the haiku at the end was something like there was some statement similar to that. And then it was rose petals falling to the ground, you know, it just, yeah, but that one was great. Another something, you know, something not there. That's not a poop joke or a guy getting kicked in the balls joke. You know, it was a joke that, you know, that was not playing down to anyone.
Yeah. Again, subtle. Yeah. Anything else you guys have to say, Smith?
I'm good.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before we get out of here, and I want to say thank you guys for joining us here on our movie review of Isle of Dogs. Make sure you guys tune in here in about five minutes or so. Tune back in because we're going to be going live with our actual film panel episode tonight. Three very, very interesting topics with you for you guys tonight. Before we get out of here, Mark, where can people find you?
Well, ideally, you can find me at my movie, television, comic book, and other pop culture stuff website, www.thewalterpaisleycafe.com. You can find me on Facebook at the Walter Paisley Cafe, Mark Plaid, and Spidau. You can find me at Twitter under those same names and Instagram. I'm on the big three. If there's another big one, let me know about it. I'll find my way on that too. But after that, that's all I need to tell you. And no gods, no masters.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you all know the deal. Head back over here to Half-Ass Pod in about 5 minutes. We'll be live over on the stream. You already know what to do. But in the meantime, I am me. We got Smith. We got Mark. Half-Ass Pod. We're OUT.